Hello, good to see you. Today I want to talk about some of the things that are going on in this country. And a lot of what I've seen is these protesters against ICE, anti-ICE protesting. And there's a lot of lawsuits and media and everything that's going on to try to stop even church leaders calling for the Discord United protest. And if it's not ICE, then it's something else they're going to protest to. So examples are tensions escalate between protesters, ICE agents, and Delaney Hall in Newark, New Jersey. So this was retrieved May 30th. Protesters clashed with ICE agents during protest at Delaney Hall. That's a detention center in Newark, New Jersey. Another one. So who's doing these who's calling these protests? Who's doing this? There are a lot of different organizations that are kind of funding and promoting these things. One of them is the National Immigration Law Center. Now they want to let all these people who came here across the borders illegally remain here. Now that doesn't make sense. Why would they want to do that? Why would you want to have a lot of people who left their country to come here into our country to basically live off of our generosity in our system? And I know a lot of people will say, well, you have to have compassion and such like that, but a nation that does not control its borders is no longer a nation. And we saw this in Europe. Europe and in England especially, they're having these issues where the young man, 18-year-old, was stabbed by a person, and it was an immigrant who came into England. Nobody in England is allowed to carry guns or knives, but because of his religious and his being from a sheik from India, he supposedly could carry this knife where he stabbed and killed this person. So they're interested in immigration. They want open borders. And this kind of ties back into something I'll get into it a little more. Another is the Center for American Progress. They want to have progress in the United States. Sounds good. A lot of these terms they sound good when you hear them, but actually their underlying agenda is quite different. We see this from a democratic socialist society. Democrat sounds good. Socialism is communism. Another one is the American Civil Liberties Union, Amnesty International, which is a global movement. People who are committed to creating a future where human rights are enjoyed by everyone. Now, it's not about human rights are enjoyed by everyone, but each nation has its own laws, and people, if they come into that nation, are supposed to. In fact, that's biblical. If in the Bible, in the Old Testament, and I can't remember if it's Deuteronomy or Leviticus, but it says if strangers come into your land, they have to learn to speak your language. They have to obey the laws and commandments, and basically assimilate, not change. And I see a lot of pickups driving around in vehicles and even in the stores where everything's gone into Spanish, flying the Mexican flag on their vehicles and such. So if they want that so much, why didn't they stay in Mexico? That's because there's no law and there's no hope in those countries. That's why they come here for some part. If they do it legally, then that's fine. That's like my ancestors did. My grandparents came here. Another one's the Brookings Institute. Now, another one is the Open Society Foundation, which is a George Soros organization. Soros Fund Management, LLC. Carl Schwab calls for cooperation and collaboration in the intelligent age. So Charles Schwab is another actor in this. He's founder and executive chairman of the World Economic Forum. So World Economic Forum, we're getting into where they want to have a one world system. So it's a one world organization. World Economic Forum annual meeting is in Switzerland. And another organization is the World Health Organization. So we see here a movement for the open borders for a one world system. And we'll get into why this is about and why the United States, as we stand today, or in the past, and what we were founded on, cannot survive in that. So World Health Organization, President Trump withdrew us from the World Health Organization on January 23rd, or around that time, 2026, ending the 75-year membership. So these are all one world type organizations. So our country, in the Declaration of Independence, it says we hold these, it says when in the course of human events it becomes necessary for one person to dissolve, one people, meaning a group, an organization, nation, and that's what our country was having issues with being ruled by a king when it was founded, for one people to dissolve the political bands, the politics that hold the countries together, which have connected them with another, and to assume among the powers of the earth a separate and equal station to which the laws of nature and of nature's God. Now here we get into it. This is why we're not going to be able to see the United States be part of this one world system. Nature's God entitled them. A decent respect to the opinions of mankind requires that they should declare the causes which impel them to the separation, why they should be separate. And it goes on. We hold these truths. What is truth? We hear that sometimes. Do you going to believe truth or science? I think you should believe the truth. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. So our nation was founded on that, the Declaration of Independence. We declared our independence from Europe because we weren't having these. So you can go to the Constitution. It starts off, we the people. So it's talking about the people, the ones who live in this. And this is kind of the way God had wanted it set up, is that people would live and they would be governed by laws, and he would appoint judges to help ensure that these laws were enforced. But I digress, as some people say. But we, the people of the United States, in order to form a more perfect union, a bond between themselves, establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility. Now, are we having domestic tranquility now with all these protests? Is it safe for people to go out on the streets with the way people are acting today with the protesters and the abuse of our system, our economic system? So, to ensure domestic tranquility, provide for the common defense to defend the nation. The common people have a common need to defend our borders and our country. Common defense. Promote the general welfare. General welfare, not all the welfare. It's not a welfare company, but to promote the general welfare, to not set up hinders or laws or stuff that would to prohibit the welfare of the people, to secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and our property. Are we doing that with these open borders and the way we're moving and doing away with laws and allowing the things that go on? So, blessings of liberty, it's a blessing to have it, it's not a right, to ourselves and our property, to ordain and establish this Constitution of the United States of America. So, this is part of the reason why this country can't be really a part of a one world system. And we see this being promoted by politicians, by the media, the press, even in churches today. They're promoting this one world system, this open borders, allowing people to come. Even the Vatican has walls around it to keep people out. So recently, the President of the United States, and we're dealing with a final battle that's coming up here, but he, on May 17th, had a rededication of this nation back. Because when the Pilgrims first landed here, and they first got into this nation, one of the first things they did was they dedicated the land to the Lord, to God. In that dedication, if we got away from it, then God would take his blessings away from it. And as we move further and further away from God's laws and his commandments and his obedience, removing them, allowing the abominations that God doesn't want to come into our society and rule over us, and even requiring people to bow down to those who do these abominations. When you start having that, then you're moving away from the bond that the dedication that we made to this country to begin with. So Trump went and he wanted to rededicate the politicians. So let's pray that they stick with this and don't start getting away from it. So, is the United States in the Bible? Some say it may be in, and then we'll go to Ezekiel 38, verse 10. Thus said the Lord God, it shall come to pass that at the same time shall things come into thy mind, and thou shalt think an evil thought. 38:11. And thou shalt say, I will go up to the land of unwalled villages. Now, they say this could be the United States because we don't have walls around there. In ancient times, they built walls around the cities to protect themselves. Excuse me. But we don't have that here in this station. We stayed away from it, so we don't have gates and stuff. And it goes on, unwalled cities, I will go to them that are at rest and dwell safely, all of them dwelling without walls and having neither bars nor gates. So we see this also now in Israel, where like Tel Aviv and these small communities may not have walls around them. And even the other day, some of the shepherds were attacked by some Muslims who came in and tried to steal their sheep. So they're not having walls. They don't have borders. And when you have open borders, that's what you're going to have. So Revelation, let's see if that has something about it. Revelations chapter 12, verse 13. And when the dragon saw that he was cast into the earth, he persecuted the woman which brought forth the man-child. Now, what woman brought forth the man-child? Well, of course, that's going to be Israel, the Jewish people. Mary brought forth the child. This child is the one that the dragon, Satan, wants to destroy. And he tried to kill him. In fact, he did crucify him on the cross. But Revelations 12:14, and to the woman were given 2 wings of a great eagle. Now, some say this is the United States, this eagles, that she might fly into the wilderness and to her place where she is nourished for a times and half times, which is 3.5 years, from the face of the serpent. That tells you who this dragon is, dragon serpent. So the United States, and if you remember back in, after the October 7th war, and then when Iran or Persia in the Old Testament fired thousands of rockets in, the United States and Israel and some other nations came and shot down almost every one of those, so that none got in. So the United States has been a protector of Israel. And because of that, the dragon needs to remove the United States so that it can destroy Israel. Because it thinks if it destroys Israel, which it won't happen because we know that God says that he's going to protect Israel now, that if he can remove that protection from Israel, then he can destroy Israel using Persia and the nations, as we'll find out later on. So back to Revelations 12:15, and the serpent cast out of his mouth waters as a flood after the woman, that he might cause her to be carried away of the flood. 16, and the earth helped the woman, and the earth opened her mouth and swallowed up the flood which the dragon cast out of his mouth. So you can see throughout history, since Israel was destroyed by the Romans in 470 AD, and the temple destroyed, and the people were scattered all around the nation, all through the nations. And they went into the earth, and the earth protected them. And of course, you had times when, like, the Russians tried to destroy all the Jews, Nazism, Hitler tried to destroy all the Jews, and we're seeing a lot of that still today, where people are against the Jews. In New York City, the mayor is against the Jews. When they had Israel Day, he boycotted it, and he condemns people who actually went out and walked with those people to celebrate. We're supposed God bless those who bless Israel. He curses those who curse Israel. Keep that in mind. 17, and the dragon was wroth with the woman and went to make war with the remnant of her seed, which keep the commandments of God and have the testimony of Jesus Christ, Yeshua, HaMashiach. So that's why the United States has to be destroyed. So does this really address the United States so that it must be removed as a nation? Let's go to Ezekiel 38. Everybody hears about Ezekiel 38:1. And the word of the Lord came to me, saying, Son of man, I like that, son of man, when he says it, set thy face against Gog, the land of Magog, the chief prince of Meshech, Tubal, and prophesy against them. 3, and say, Thus saith the Lord God, behold, I am against thee, O Gog, the chief prince of Meshech and Tubal. 4, and I will turn thee back and put hooks into thy jaws. Now, when he says he's going to put hooks into the jaws, he's talking about the same type of control they used over the Pharaoh in Egypt against Israel. He put the mind of Pharaoh to go after the Jews in Egypt and to kill the firstborn and not to adhere to the plagues until he himself was plagued with the death of the firstborn. Of course, we were protected by the blood of the Lamb over the doorway that the Israelites were. So 38:4, and I will turn thee back and put hooks into thy jaws, and I will bring thee forth and all thy army, horses, horsemen, all of them clothed with all sorts of armor, even a great company with bucklers and shields, all of them handling swords or weapons, should be. 38:5, Persia, which is Iran, Ethiopia, Libya, those countries are still here today. With them, all of them with shield and helmet. 6, Gomer, and all the bands of the house of Tog-Hamar, or Tog-Hamar, of the north quarters, and all his bands, and many with the people. 7, be thou prepared, and prepare for thyself, thou and all thy company, and assembled. And I'm going to get into this, being that they guard unto them. So who are these nations in Ezekiel 38? Magog, according to first century Jewish historian Josephus, the land of Magog, which is inhabited by the Scythians, lived throughout Central Asia, indicating the identity associated with the nations today, such as Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan, Uzbekistan, Turkmenistan, Tajikistan, and all the other stands, including Afghanistan. So we got all these stands involved in there. And a lot of this I can't pronounce because our primary language is English, and I can't speak very much of anything else. And I don't even do speak English very well, but saying these words is hard. So another one is Rosh. Rosh is the remote part of the north because of this. Most interpreters identifying Magog as Russia, at least part of Russia, or perhaps Russia and some former Soviet nations connecting with it. So Rosh, Russia. Meshech and Tubal, which is modern-day Turkey. Persia, which is Iran. Cush, or Ethiopia, which is the same as modern Ethiopia, represents the land of Egypt today and nation of Sudan. Put, also translated in some version as Libya. This land is still known today as Libya. Gomer, part of modern Turkey. Beth Tagma, which is also modern Turkey. I got these from Who Are the Nations of Ezekiel 38. You can get this off the webpage if you go there and look under Ancient Eyes on the site. So in Daniel, we talk. He has the statue, the image. Remember, Daniel prophesies or interpreted for Nebuchadnezzar what this statue that he saw. And we're going to talk about it. This is what the statue was. The image head was of fine gold, which was Babylon. The breast of the arms of silver, which is Medio-Persia. His belly and his thighs were of brass. That's Greece. And that's when Alexander the Great came in and took all the land. His legs of iron were Rome. Remember, the legs, he had two legs, where Rome was divided into two. It had Western Rome and you had Eastern Rome, which was the Muslim Persian parts, because Rome had gotten so big, the nation, that it had to divide it up to get better control. We'll get into that a little more as we go. So Rome, and then his legs of iron, Rome, and his feet of iron and part of clay. Now that iron and clay don't mix. It's like trying to make something with iron and sand. They won't adhere together. So 34, Daniel 2:34. Thou sawest till that a stone was cut without hands, which smote the image upon his feet that were of iron and clay, and brake them to pieces. So this stone, which was made without hands, it's alluding to the cornerstone being Christ, God. So there is a beast spoken also in Revelation 17. Can we get more understanding of the clay and iron? What happens in the United States? Revelation 17:1. And there came one of the seven angels which had the seven vials. So we're talking about the vials. Remember, we had vials and bowls, vials. You had trumpets, and you have seals. So these are the vials. And talked with me, saying unto me, Come hither. I will show unto thee the judgment of the great whore that sitteth upon many waters. Now, waters, when you hear this term or see this term used, is often meaning masses of people or the people. So it's sitting, this great whore is sitting on the people. It's like raised up among the people. And that's probably a better way to look at it. It rises up out of the people. It's like rock stars and stuff. You know, they kind of raise up out of the people. I'm not into that rock star stuff, but if you are, maybe I hope you understand. With whom the kings of the earth have committed fornication. So this person that is talking about this whore, the kings of the earth have committed fornications with her, things that are forbidden or not shouldn't be done. Inhabitants of fornications, and the inhabitants of the earth have been made drunk with the wine of her fornication. Now, fornication is in strong concordance to act the harlot, i.e., literal, indulge unlawful lust. Unlawful lust. We see that today with some of these protests and what's going on with what they want to do. This is Pride Month. Can you think of a more unlawful lust in God's eyes than Pride Month? Unlawful lust of either sex or figurative practice, idolatry, committed fornication. You go to Jeremiah 51:7. Babylon hath been a golden cup in the Lord's hand that made all the earth drunken, and nations have drunken of her wine. Therefore the nations are mad. Again, idolatry is mentioned as leaning towards idolatry and fornication. So back to Revelation 17:3. I kind of got off there. So he carried me away in the spirit into the wilderness. So he's not taken, he's not being raptured, he's not being abducted by aliens, but his spirit is being taken away into the wilderness. And I saw a woman sit upon a scarlet-colored beast, full of names of blasphemy, having 7 heads and 10 horns. Now, some of you may remember, they used to have districts where the prostitution was, and it was called red light districts. So it kind of reminded me of that. I don't know why. Fornications. You go to 3. And I saw the woman say upon the scarlet beast, the blasphemies, 7 heads and 10 horns. 7 heads and 10 horns. So 7 kind of reminds me of the G7 for some reason. G7 being the nations, the G7 monetary system, things like that. So the wilderness, most uncertain, fit, lonesome, waste, desert, desolate, solitary wilderness. 7 in biblical numbers is completeness, spiritual perfection. 10 is testimony, law, and responsibility. So 17:4, Revelations. And the woman was arrayed in purple and scarlet color, decked with gold and precious stones, pearls, having a golden cup in her hand, full of abominations, filthiness. So this colors and this robes and things kind of remind you of what a prostitute might wear. So 17:5, and upon her forehead was the name written, Mystery Babylon. Babylon is Babel, confusion. The great, the mother of harlots and abominations of the earth. Too many, not too different from the possible mark of the beast, Babylon. May go back to Daniel and the dream of Nebuchadnezzar. 2 Thessalonians 2:7, for the mystery of iniquity doth already work. Only he who now letteth will let until be taken out of the way, and then shall that wicked be revealed, whom the Lord shall consume with the spirits of his mouth, and shall destroy with brightness of his coming. Now you can recall the frogs coming out of the mouth of the beast, which is wickedness, wicked, sending out false spirits, false prophets, false imposters, if you will. Revelation 17:6, and I saw the woman drunken with the blood of the saints and with the blood of the martyrs of Jesus, Charlie Kirk, martyrs of Jesus. And when I saw her, I wondered with great admiration. Admiration here from the Strong's 2295 is to wonder, property concrete, but by implication abstract, admiration, to admire. So you go to Matthew 24:9, Christ speaking. Then shall they deliver you up to be afflicted, and they shall kill you, and ye shall be hated of all nations for my name's sake. And that's why we see such hate towards people who obey God and follow God's laws and want to keep this nation, one nation under God. It's because the enemy can't have that. The enemy can't have you being part of God. So, and the angel said unto me, wherefore didst thou marvel? I will show thee the mystery of the woman and the beast that carrieth her, which hath the 7 heads and 10 horns. So now he's going to explain to us what this beast is. The beast that thou sawest was and is not, meaning it was, but it's not, and shall ascend out of the bottomless pit. Excuse me, that's why it was, and is not, because it was put in the bottomless pit. And we know who that. And go into perdition. And they that dwell on the earth shall wonder, whose names were not written in the book of life from the foundation of the world, when they behold the beast that was and is not and yet is. So perdition is 684, presumed derivative of 622, ruin or loss, physical, spiritual, or eternal, damnable or damnation, destruction, die, perdition, perish. So those who are going to perish. Who is the one that's condemned to perish? The only person who's really condemned right now, because Christ died for us and we have salvation and we can repent. So it's not all your hope is not over, but Satan's is. Satan is condemned to that. Revelation 17:9. And here is the mind which hath wisdom. So when we hear about wisdom and knowledge of good and evil that Satan produced, and I gave AI, knowledge of good and evil, as an example of that. But here is he who has wisdom. The 7 heads are 7 mountains on which the woman sitteth. Now, the 7 mountains, that takes me back to Rome, because remember, Rome sits on 7 hills, and that's kind of where the Roman Empire. And then now we have the Catholic Church, the Roman Catholic Church there. So it reminds me of the G7. Remember I mentioned that earlier? If you recall, I said that the G7, which is, let me just read this. This is from France's President's Direction General. I'm not French either. Although I do have some French DNA, mostly English and Scottish and Lithuanian, but that's another story. So the group of G7 brings together 7 of the world's most advanced economies. So we're getting in again to the mark of the beast, and not buying or selling unless you have the mark, which is Canada, France, Germany, Italy, Japan, the United Kingdom, the United States. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. That's the 7 money powers of the world. And we're seeing by open borders and such, all these nations being destroyed by others coming in and trying to change the nation into something else than what they were founded as. So it says with the European Union also being a member, so now they've added to it, they've increased the G7 to even more. So now you have the whole European Union involved. Remember the problems they're having. They're having so much problems with open borders that a lot of them are starting to really regret it now. It's destroying their countries, and that's what the whole open borders thing is to destroy the countries. It serves as the forum of choice for its members to discuss and coordinate actions in response to major economic, financial, geopolitical challenges on the global stage. And then it goes on, and you can read this on the website if you go in and look at this. I post all that I'm reading from on the webpage, so you can have it. So back to Revelation 17:11. In the beast that was and is not, even he is the 8th and is of the 7 and goeth into perdition. And the only one sent to perdition is Satan. So that's telling you the beast, is the Satan. 12. And the 10 horns which thou sawest are 10 kings, which have received no kingdom as of yet. They haven't come to power yet, but receive power as kings 1 hour with the beast. So these kings, we need to watch for this. These 10 kings are going to have power. So is it part of the G7 or is it part of the Daniel with the statue, or is it part of the ones that Ezekiel talks about? We'll see. 17:13. These have one mind. They think alike. And that's what they're trying to do. They're trying to change people's minds so everybody thinks alike and obeys. That's what the whole thing of the open borders and transgender and everything, it's wants to force people to think the same way. One mind, and shall give their power and strength unto the beast. That's why. 14. These shall make war with the Lamb. The Lamb shall overcome them. So the Lamb, of course, is Jesus. Jesus was the sacrificial lamb. He was sacrificed even at the hour the lamb was being sacrificed on the Temple Mount. He was being sacrificed on the mount on his crucifixion. Overcome them, for he is the Lord of lords and King of kings. Remember, they put on above him on his cross, King of the Jews. And they that are with him are called the chosen and faithful. So this also could be back to 16:16, which is kind of an Armageddon. 17, Revelation 17:15, and he saith unto me, the waters which thou sawest, where the whore sitteth, are peoples and multitudes, nations and tongues. So that's what I said. But it's getting a little more specific. It's not just peoples, it's multitudes of nations and tongues. So it's worldwide. 17:16, and the 10 horns which thou sawest upon the beast, these shall hate the whore, and shall make her desolate and naked, and shall eat her flesh, and burn her with fire. The beast shall take her wealth and make it his own. 17, for God hath put in their hearts to fulfill his will. God's will be done. So it doesn't matter what people want. He puts the hook in the mouth and makes it. He made Pharaoh's heart hardened so that he would continue to keep the Jews in bondage, Israel in bondage in Egypt until the final plague when the firstborn. And that was all a sign for Christ's coming. Think about it. The blood they had to put on the doorpost. So that's on each side of the doorpost and above it. So that forms the same where Christ's blood was on the cross, on his hands and his head, where the blood from the crowns of thorns. So they forced that would happen. 17, for the God had put in their hearts to fulfill his will and to agree and give their kingdoms unto the beast until the words of God shall be fulfilled. God's word will be fulfilled, and it's talking about a new world order. So it's for Satan to try to get and have this mark of the beast, just like everything's been gearing up to this. When we had the COVID and you had to get the COVID shot, and then they found out that the COVID shot wasn't doing what it did, but they made you get it. And remember, they wouldn't even let you go in the stores or shop or go in public. So we're being programmed to that, and people are giving their freedoms away, and that's what we're concerned about here with this nation and what's going on with the protesters. They want us to give away our freedoms. Unfortunately, a lot of times, like with 9/11, we gave away a lot of freedoms for protection. And when you start giving away freedoms for protection, then you're going to end up being controlled by the kings. 18, and no oligarchs. Yeah, right. Those are the people who are actually running this, are the ones who are getting out and saying it. So listen, watch the language, listen to what they're saying. They're the ones who are telling you to stop the rich, to do away. We need to punish the wealthy, take away what they have, give it to everybody. Free housing, free grocery stores. They did that in Russia. Remember that? How well did that go? They did it in Cuba, Venezuela. Every place they had, China, every place they have this where the government controls. It's supposed to be for the people. That's what the Russian Revolution was for. That's what the Weather Underground and the Socialist Democrat Party wants, which is actually communism, is for government to control everything so that it'll be fair and equitable to everybody. No, it won't be, because the leaders, Stalin and them, did not live in poverty. When they just killed the Tsar, they lived in the Tsar's house. You didn't. People didn't. It's supposed to have been for the people, but it wasn't. Our nation was founded for the people, by the people. Revelation 17:18. And the woman which thou sawest is the great city which reigneth over the kings of the earth. As of today, there is no one city that reigns over all the kings of the earth, except, according to the insider, the cities of New York and London have the most influence in the world. Think about that, New York and London. What's happening in New York? And I got this from the 21 most influential cities in the world back in 2022. And according to the New World Wealth site, wealthiest cities are New York, San Francisco, Bay Area, Tokyo, London, Beijing, Shanghai. So New York, so why is New York City have a Muslim mayor now, Mamdani? Why is he making comments that he's going to take control of even the housing now and the places where people live? And because of fair rent and such, he's going to seize the property and give it to the people. That sounds just like the manifesto of communism, right? These things don't work, because when people don't have something to work for, they become incompetent and lazy and won't do it. Why work harder? And back in the old days, you heard this: work smarter, not harder. No, you need to work harder. So in Russia, during the communist time, the product stunk. And you couldn't, for example, out of every 200 TVs, one might work. The grocery shelves were empty. They would deliberately cause famines to control the people. And that's one of the things that communism is when Karl Marx was teaching at the university, and a lot of these come from universities, right? We see a lot of this change and stuff come from universities, but he used to do a example, and he would have a little chicken, and this is kind of gross, so parents need to be aware of this, but he would feed the chicken would eat it. Then he'd pick the chicken up, pull out some of its feathers, then put it back down, then give it some food, and the chicken would run up to him and start eating. Then he'd pick it up, pull out, and he did it until all the feathers were pulled off, and the chicken was bleeding. And he said, see, as long as you give them something, you can kill them. You can take away, you can do whatever you want to the people. And we see that today with the politicians. And that's why they're always making promises and wanting to give things. And if you give it to them, then the people will become subservient to you, and they'll go, oh yeah, that's good. I want free housing. I want free transportation. I want free this, free that. I want to save the planet from God's in charge of the planet. He controls it, and he made this planet for us to live on. And he's not going to allow us to destroy it through climate change. He controls the climate, not man. So if they scare you and do it, then they'll get you to do what they want, and then the United States has to be destroyed. So it can't protect Israel or change its mindset. So that's why this was the once great United States. And now it is no longer, because Satan wants to take that away and make it part of his dominion. Are you going to stand with Satan? Or are you going to stand with God? Where will your name be written in the book of life? So thanks for joining us. Go to the webpage under Ancient Eyes that you see listed here, and you can actually see all the documentation that I have on this. So thanks again, and have a great week. Stay in the word of the Lord, for that is our salvation, and knowledge and wisdom. That's the knowledge that Satan wants us to get away from. Thanks.